Have you ever awakened in the morning and sensed that something seems off? Not merely the haze from sleep or the ache in your back. I'm referring to that vibrant energy you once experienced upon waking in your 20s. That subtle, assured preparedness in your frame that whispered to you, I remain a man. If that sensation has been absent of late, I wish to share with you a straightforward, natural tip that might assist in restoring it. And it begins with the beverage you consume prior to bedtime. Hello, I'm Dr. Sophia Carter, a urologist boasting more than 10 years of expertise in aiding men beyond 50 to reclaim their strength, assurance, and bond with their well-being once more. And this evening, we're diving into one particular bedtime beverage that could astonish you with its remarkable potency. Now, I realize it might appear nearly too straightforward, merely a drink right before sleep, truly. But prior to dismissing it and shifting to something more extravagant, stick around with me since what I'm preparing to reveal isn't merely some passing fad. It isn't an enchanted elixir drawn from the newest promotional buzz. It stems from far more profound origins, the genuine physiology of your form, particularly once you've passed 50. And once you grasp how these innate shifts progress within you, this modest pre-sleep practice abruptly becomes entirely logical. You know, as the years advance, various mechanisms within the body start to decelerate, not in a sudden, stark manner, but incrementally, discreetly, season after season. Your arteries, for example, commence to forfeit a bit of their early suppleness. The pliable linings that formerly expanded readily to permit circulation, they begin to rigidify. At the same time, your testosterone, the essential hormone driving passion, motivation, and cellular mending, starts to diminish in tiny, consistent increments. And then there's slumber. It arrives less profoundly or refreshingly than it used to. You could still log your hours, yet your physique doesn't leverage them with the same effectiveness. And these elements all merge into a single, pivotal concern: diminished evening rejuvenation. This languid renewal influences numerous aspects, but it particularly hampers circulation. And allow me to share a vital point regarding a man's intimate vitality, vigor, and self-assurance. Circulation is paramount. It isn't concerning the quantity of testosterone you possess or the robustness of your physique. If the bloodstream isn't circulating adequately to the appropriate spot at the appropriate moment, nothing operates as intended. Your capacity to achieve and sustain arousal, even your capacity to experience longing, originates from how proficiently your vascular network functions. That's precisely why this beverage isn't simply a soothing nightly custom. It serves as an aid, a cue to your organism that it's moment to unwind, renew, and gear up for the coming day bearing greater fortitude and vitality. So, permit me to disclose precisely what this beverage entails and, more crucially, the reason it performs so effectively. It's an uncomplicated mixture: warm water, unadulterated pomegranate nectar, and a sliver of fresh ginger. Merely 3 components: no supplemental sweeteners, no stimulants, no synthetic elements. Nevertheless, every one of these 3 aspects plays a profoundly significant function in bolstering your framework, particularly during repose. Let's commence with the pomegranate nectar. This berry isn't merely delectable. It stands as a reservoir of polyphenols, innate botanical substances that aid in easing the interior surfaces of your arteries. Envision your arteries akin to irrigation tubes. When they're irritated or rigid, fluid struggles to pass through smoothly. But when the coating known as the endothelium remains sleek and robust, all circulates more fluidly. Tension eases, oxygen transport enhances, vital elements travel unhindered, and your groin zone, encompassing your manhood, receives precisely what it requires to remain resilient and reactive. That's the wonder of polyphenols. They aren't energizers. They act as allies, subtly mending and reconstructing what the passage of time has eroded. Now, let's address ginger. This modest rhizome, which you've likely incorporated into infusions or meals, accomplishes far more than merely enhancing taste. Ginger has been recognized for ages due to its anti-inflammatory qualities, but further, it genuinely assists in prompting nitric oxide within the organism. Nitric oxide serves as the molecular signal that instructs your arteries to loosen and broaden, permitting bloodstream to proceed to its destinations. Actually, this represents the identical process that numerous enhancement pharmaceuticals attempt to replicate. But through ginger, you're collaborating with your physique, not compelling it. It's tender, innate, and secure, and that's an element your organism values increasingly as the years accumulate. And finally, the warm water. The majority dismiss this element, assuming it's solely there to thin the nectar. But heat holds great influence. Warm water pacifies your gastric tract, assists in modulating your neural network, and even marginally dilates your arteries, facilitating simpler uptake of vital elements. Consider it as a transport vehicle with its motor already idling. The heat initiates all motion. Thus, rather than the ginger and polyphenols merely lingering in your gut, they disseminate into your circulation, where they can commence their tasks as you slumber. Now, I recognize that certain among you could be pondering, might this genuinely produce an impact? And I comprehend the doubt. But I've witnessed this succeed not merely in studies or manuals, but among actual gentlemen, in clientele, acquaintances, even relatives who adopted it routinely and observed shifts. Not instantaneous wonders, but progressive enhancements. They dozed more soundly. They roused feeling less foggy. And above all, they perceived a subtle resurgence of an element they believed vanished, that innate dawn vigor, that understated cue that their organism remained competent, remained reactive, remained potent. And here's the key. This isn't regarding pursuing some bygone iteration of yourself. It isn't about attempting to reverse time to your 20s. It's concerning respecting the individual you embody presently and providing that individual the routine nurturing and backing he requires to persist in existing with poise and resilience. There's honor in tending to your vitality even through modest means, particularly via modest means. That's precisely why I cherish this beverage immensely. It isn't yet another task on your agenda. It isn't another element to fret excessively over. It's a subdued gesture of backing, a minor offering to your organism prior to shutting your lids at night. You're not ingesting a tablet. You're not coercing a reaction. You're permitting the organism to execute what it was engineered for, to mend, to renew, and to ready itself for the morrow. Because here's the reality. The majority of gentlemen believe they must undertake something drastic to achieve outcomes. They assume if it's not arduous or intricate, it can't succeed. Thus, they overlook the fundamentals. But I'm present to recall for you that, occasionally, the tiniest deeds performed steadfastly are those that generate the grandest transformations. When you consume this mixture prior to bedtime, you're accomplishing something deeply beneficial. You're moisturizing your tissues, you're soothing your neural framework, you're enhancing your vascular movement, and perhaps most vitally, you're signaling to your organism that it counts, that it persists in vitality, still deserving of tending, still able to embrace delight. So this evening before retiring, allocate 5 minutes. Heat some water, add a modest quantity of pomegranate nectar, include a slender sliver of fresh ginger, settle with it. Imbibe gradually and regard it not as a beverage but as a subdued vow to your organism that you're appearing, that you're observing, that you're still engaged because you are. And come morning, permit your organism to demonstrate to you just how potent that modest vow can prove. Now, let's explore further into why the nighttime represents such a potent and revered interval for gentlemen beyond 50. You see, the majority view slumber as the phase when all ceases operation. But in truth, for your organism, it constitutes the most dynamic restoration span across the full day. It's amid those serene hours that your tissues mend, your structures reconstruct, and your essential mechanisms initiate recalibration for the ensuing day. Your endocrines, for example, commence to equilibrate anew. Testosterone, which inherently wanes with advancing years, gets discharged in brief tactical surges during your repose. These spurts prove crucial for muscular mending, intimate operation, vitality, and even disposition. Your neural network likewise undergoes a profound transition. It departs from combat or evasion state, the tense, uneasy condition we frequently inhabit amid daylight, and enters repose and assimilation. This transition isn't merely calming, it's restorative. It affords your viscera, particularly your cardiac organ and arteries, the opportunity to operate sans strain. And regarding arteries, they initiate a lovely cadence through the night. They dilate and constrict softly, nearly as if undergoing conditioning to preserve elasticity and juvenility. That pliancy is what permits robust, consistent circulation the subsequent morning or otherwise. But here's the obstacle. If you retire parched, Irritated, distended, or laden with sucrose and refined refuse, your organism fails to receive the respite it merits. Rather than mending, it shifts to protective stance. Your conduits rigidify, your cardiac rhythm ascends, your gastric mechanism remains hyperactive, and the outcome, subpar slumber, feebler vascular flow, additional nocturnal lavatory visits, and lethargic vigor the next dawn. That's why this beverage we've discussed transcends mere salubrious components. It isn't solely about the contents of the vessel. It's about the signal you're conveying to your organism pre-slumber. When you pause to craft something that sustains your vascularity, bolsters your fabric, pacifies your abdomen, and tempers irritation, you're conveying something potent, sans utterance. You're conveying, I value my renewal. I desire to rouse robust. I am fostering the setting where liveliness becomes feasible, not merely yearning for it. And I assure you, your organism perceives that signal distinctly. It may not manifest in a striking alteration immediately, but grant it duration. Evening succeeding evening, your organism commences to rely on the cadence. It initiates deeper mending. You might start to observe minor yet significant shifts. Diminished nocturnal excursions to the lavatory, a steadier and more forceful dawn flow, a comfort in your groin region, enhanced cognitive sharpness upon awakening, and indeed, a resurgence of that recognized sensation of preparedness, that subdued indicator of salubrious vascular movement. And here's the splendor encompassing it all. This full practice demands under 2 minutes to assemble. There's no intricacy, no timetable, no mandate, merely a handful of elements, a touch of purpose, and a readiness to nurture yourself tenderly absent critique. But if you'd like to advance one additional stride and genuinely heighten the efficacy of this beverage, allow me to impart one further stratum of guidance. While the components operate on a molecular and tissue plane, their influences amplify when combined with mild nocturnal motion. I'm not suggesting a vigorous exercise. I refer to something renewing, a tranquil 10-minute stroll post-supper, a brief round of leisurely extending in your parlor, even simply reclining on your dorsum, inhaling profoundly with lids shut and one palm upon your thorax. These elementary methods engage your parasympathetic neural network, the segment accountable for authentic, profound slumber and equilibrated endocrine operation. When that network activates, your organism recognizes its period for renewal, and that's when mending commences, sincerely. So now here's your fresh pre-slumber sequence, and it's one that honors your era, your schedule, and your requisites. You activate your physique modestly, you inhale profoundly, you prepare your beverage, and you imbibe it unhurriedly, permitting your organism to assimilate every portion of its sustenance. This isn't regarding pursuing achievement or juvenility. It isn't regarding constraint. It's regarding forging area, corporeal, sentimental, and endocrine, for your organism to manifest as it was crafted. Across time, this evolves beyond a mere sequence. It evolves into a ceremony, a revered instant in your day that realigns you with your resilience, your insight, and your tangible existence. It evolves into a subdued yet potent manner of declaring to yourself, I persist in this pursuit. I retain potency, and I elect to bolster myself each solitary evening. There's honor in that selection. There's allure in it as well. So this evening, rather than dulling yourself via tardy nocturnal broadcasts or aimlessly perusing your device until slumber overtakes, I beckon you to attempt an alternative. Enter your galley, carve a fragment of fresh ginger, dispense a diminutive vessel of unadulterated pomegranate nectar, incorporate warm water, agitate softly, and consume with purpose. Consume with tenderness. Consume as though you're signaling to your organism that it is cherished, not owing to its capabilities but owing to its essence. Because here's the reality you require to absorb. You aren't beyond your zenith. You inhabit a fresh segment, and that segment can prove resilient, dynamic, and profoundly gratifying if you opt to sustain it. And it commences with minor, steadfast deeds of sustenance. So, gratitude for devoting these moments alongside me. If this tidings echoed within you, I beckon you to enlist not merely to this conduit, but to a novel form of vitality, one grounded in discernment, in innate resilience, and in the subdued poise deriving from tending to your organism with affection. Your finest eras aren't trailing you. They await the instant you resolve to sustain them. Now proceed to consume your